Welcome to the SHENKO Dynasty. Welcome to the SHENKO Dynasty podcast. I am your host, Kashenko. And before this episode starts, I wanted to, formally introduce myself because I feel like this is a long time coming. For a long time, I've, wanted to facilitate certain conversations and share it with the public because I feel like there's a lot of perspectives that I've gained throughout my lifetime and my experiences doing music and being creative and all of that. And I've come across some really beautiful people along the way. So this is a place that I wanted to create where we can have really honest and meaningful conversations about what the fuck we're doing here with this life, with our gifts, and just hear the stories of other people's journeys because I feel like that's really important. Sometimes we get really focused in on what we're doing, and that's good. That's good to stay focused and in what your beliefs and what your values are. But there's also value in hearing other people's perspectives because it helps us integrate things that we need, So this is not going to be the type of podcast where I'm just releasing episodes every week or whatever. I don't really care about all that right now. It's more so on the basis of when I feel called to have a conversation with someone, because for me, there's more value in co-creating something in this capacity when there's a specific intention behind it. So I really want these episodes and these interviews to be deep and meaningful, and you can feel that through the words that are being spoken, through the energy that is being conveyed, So I really want this to be something that is of integrity and just enriching. I think more and more we are needing this reminder about who we are and our gifts and our creativity and the creative process. So we're going to talk about all kinds of things. I think for me, it's especially interesting the merging between God and creativity. And so a lot of the conversations will be about connecting to this God source energy and the way that it relates to our creative process as humans. Because I don't think there's enough of that conversation happening, especially in the music industry. By the way, I got a new microphone, so that's what I'm recording this on. But I recorded a few episodes without this new mic and equipment that I got. So bear with me with the sound. I was trying to figure it out. But this interview is pretty good. And to introduce my first guest on this podcast, I don't think there could be anyone that is just more perfect to introduce this podcast with. Her name is RAHEL. Over the years, we've had a lot of conversations and just ways we've connected, and we see things very similarly when it comes to the soulfulness and the God aspect of music and why we're doing what we're doing. So in this episode, RAHEL has some really important perspectives, and I'm so glad that we got to have that conversation. So I'm not going to take up too much more time. I'll let you guys hear it. Without further ado, here is my dear friend Rahel. And I have a very special guest here today, and her name is Rahel. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am very excited to be a part of this little episode. And we've had so many conversations about just like music and creativity and the spiritual side of everything. And it's just like, yeah, I'm glad to be here expanding on all of that in this way with you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm super honored. I want to start with, where does creativity begin for you?
Mm, as in like my creative process or like just creativity in general.
Yeah, just where does creativity begin for you? Like growing up, where could you identify that you are a creative person and this is where you wanted what you wanted to do?
Right. That's such a good question. I was thinking about that the other day. I feel like I was thinking about how so much of my relationship towards creativity has been more of like a philosophy that I feel like was given to me very young when I was very young. And then it just kind of like spilled into different mediums, obviously the main one being music. But I really do feel like well, I guess I did grow up like doing piano lessons, and like I was just in all the music things. Like I did piano, and then I played viola, and then I played saxophone, and then I was in the choirs and everything like that. But all of that is still just playing stuff. You know what I mean? Even like when you think about a teacher teaching a child something, you is the teacher teaching the child how to be creative? Maybe not. Maybe it could just be like a command, like play these notes, child plays these notes. Like so when you ask like where does creativity start? I do have these very distinct memories of like my piano teacher introducing me to these piano pieces and me asking like or her seeing my curiosity in wanting to adapt certain things that we were playing. And same thing happened in like spaces where, you know, maybe it was more like a chorale space. Like I'm talking like I would have been like 8 years old, 9 years old, singing like in choirs and making up like additional harmonies and
Mm-hmm.
just hearing like, oh, and this note works and this note feels good. And you
Yeah.
know, there's a few little things. And but then also like even just like yeah, like the creativity side, hearing people's language around it be so free and
Mm.
from a very young age, there is no right, there is no wrong. There's just feel. Do you feel like doing this? Do that. Da 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 da. So I think yeah, like actually realizing that like I can create things, meaning like something in my mind can be real. Like that definitely started from what I can remember around like when I was like 7 or 8. And then I think I developed more language and like more like ambition towards just keeping on following that because I did have teachers kind of pick up like, oh, that you actually did that just then. You added a different note just then, or this is a melody, or da 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 da. And so it was this really beautiful thing of just like, oh, I can just like keep going, keep on doing things, and that, you know, all the way till like um you know, when you really think about like creativity kind of taking a different form in the lyrical space, like in terms of writing songs and stuff like that, that was also like a different like creative journey starting point. I also feel like, which that has almost nothing to do with music and everything more to do with emotional processing of the world
Mm.
and like, you know, teachers not shutting down your thoughts and parents not shutting down your thoughts. Like I'm a Christian, so even in the church space I'm very fortunate to like, you know, not have too much of like a horrible like religious trauma kind of story, which a lot of people in my generation have. But knowing God and really from a young age being like, oh, God created all of this, God literally created all of this. Like I think from a very young
Yeah,
age, I was like, oh, I'm in God's playground doing something that
that's
like
amazing.
is just an iteration of what like I think I understood that from very young. And that's why I'm just like, man, like God is the sickest. God is the artist. God is the creator. Like that's I'm trying to be not like I'm trying to be God, but it's like really it just I'm just looked up to God from a very young age. Like I don't know if that answers the question, but
Absolute, no, absolutely. There's just so much in there already. But
I know.
I love it. But okay, so I really actually I wanted to ask you about harmony and vocal arrangement because that's what you do, vocal
Yeah.
engineering. So you mentioned that you started to be able to identify different notes and things that you could create with melody and sound and your voice. So that was the starting point, but how did that evolve into your process now?
Yeah. So again, it's one of those things where it's like the more that I think about it, I realize um there's a few interweaving parts because vocalizing and harmonizing like through the human voice is like again just one medium of it. But I think when I was growing up, my mom used to play a lot of movie soundtracks. Like that would be the music that we would hear was literally like I even remember like there was this like How to Train Your Dragon? Like just like How
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Train
yeah,
like just like
yeah.
yeah, like animated movies and like
Yeah.
the Snow White stuff and like the Disney stuff like and I would hear orchestral arrangements from a young age. And really orchestral stuff and movie scoring is where you see a lot of like harmonic capability being utilized because you're accompanying like so many emotions in a way that's different to like a 3-minute song or anything like that. So I think I always view it as like an ear thing and then how you're choosing to output it. So even in like now when I'm how it's evolved into like arranging and stuff like that, I I I don't even think of my vocals sometimes as vocals. Like I'm thinking like in strings or like remembering like the tension of like I remember I used to be in band and like really observing like when I used to play saxophone, I'd be sitting like I'm a saxophone player, then right next to me there would be a trumpet player, and then next to them there'd be like a French horn player. And we can all play the same note, but our textures are so different. And so there you go, okay, like that's the cheat code. I can do that with my voice. So suddenly if I'm going, why would I go, can I go, like
Yeah.
what is sound? Like where can I place things? And so that's why I always just I'm just like, man, like even this whole, oh man, you're so good at vocals, you're so good at vocals. I'm like, man, I don't even know if I'm good at vocals. I'm just seeing this as some kind of an instrument, and I know there's little crevices I can like get into. And but I think that's how it's evolved the most is like seeing it less like vocals as much as possible allows for more unique things
Mm,
through the instrument of vocals. And then of course, like, man, you know, in this the way technology has advanced is like I'm such a lover of like vocal processing in like in the sense of like post, editing like you vocal chains and auto tune and all those
yeah.
things, like all of that, like I'm very sensitive to like the little additions of like things make things more metallic or
Yeah.
different, emphasizing certain frequencies and all that kind of stuff. And you have a whole new instrument every single time you apply these things on your vocals. So yeah, that's how it's evolved. I just feel this huge sense of freedom, and sometimes it's actually really overwhelming because I'm like, whoa, there's actually so much we can do. There's so many sounds we can create. But just baby steps, you know what I mean? Just like and never starting my vocal arrangements with a template. That's a rule I
Oh
have for
yeah.
myself. I'm
Yeah.
starting from scratch every time.
That's what I
Every
do
time.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just every time because who knows? Who knows what it's meant to sound like, you know? Um, but yeah, that's a little snippet of that.
Yeah, no, I really love that because I'm also someone who loves vocal arrangements and just chopping up vocals and using your voice in different unique ways. I think for my especially my relationship with my voice, I really have gone into
Mm,
deep just phases where I experiment with like tones and like different
yeah.
ways to use your voice to bring out certain textures. So that has been
Yeah.
really important for me in my vocal development, but also creative process. So I love hearing these kind of stories, you know, and just other
Yeah.
people's journey. I wanted to know because for me, very early on, I could hear and distinguish like the different textures and sounds like you. But even with vocals, I think one artist that's been huge in my, I guess, vocal and artist development is Beyonce, and just listening to
Mm,
how her voice has evolved over time
yeah.
and hearing the details, just the details of how she would bend her voice and the
Mhm,
different ways she would kind of manipulate it to create these
mhm.
whole like just soundscapes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So has
Yeah.
there been anyone vocally that you've listened to where you're like, this is something that I can identify and, you know, use for my process?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really feel you on like it's it's so especially with an artist like Beyonce because she has so much work, you can really pinpoint what she's unlocked over time or what she's like, you know, what vocal quality she's nurtured so much that they shine in a different way over time. And I think for me, like I have so many vocal inspirations for like different reasons. But definitely two main ones is Brandy and Frank Ocean for really different reasons, but really similar reasons. One, emotion first. Do you know what I mean? That's just like I think that just taught me like emotion first. Like it's just lead with that. You know what I mean? There's if you know the emotion you're going for, there will be a vocal placement that can accurately achieve that. And I just believe that now. So now it's like, oh, I can't sing that. It's like, well, maybe you just haven't found the right spot to put it in. You know what I mean? Um, but definitely with Brandy, obviously she's like the queen of vocal layering, but not even just in the harmonic sense, but how she does her doubles so accurately on purpose to make sure the cushion is just the right amount of cushion. So you actually get a whole different mix dimension. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's no longer just like, oh, send this song to the mix engineer. Now it's mixed. This is like getting into like the compression of vocals, manual compression of vocals, and how we can be strategic about creating a sound and a mix that is from you. Do you know what I mean? Like you can really mix your own vocals manually and create that sound bed. So hearing those nuances very early on, which I think Brandy displays amazingly, um, again like just liberated me in my process, even in the sense of a roadblock being like I'm not a mix engineer but I have something in my mind that I want to achieve. How do I get there? Can I do it manually? Do you know what I mean? Can I thin out my vocals and make the volume lower but still have this twanginess to it? Why do I have to make someone else do that? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's actually just like that journey of being like, man, I don't have no team. Like I kind of just got to figure this out, you know, from my voice. But that's been a huge thing again with Brandy, like the harmonics, the harmonic capabilities, and how so much of the emotions because you're hearing these hints of these chords just being sprayed through and through because I don't know, just the way that affects everything. It's no longer like, oh, what are the chords to the song? It's actually, well, you're hearing multiple chords in the song at different times, at all the right touch points. And that creates such a feeling of like openness and you know, tension and release, and it's just freaking Randy, of course, education in itself. Um, but I say Frank too because I think he's been such a um guide on how far you can go with the modern tools that we have when we talk about auto tune, reverbs, delay, um, especially with Frank, how he marries. Like, I don't think Frank, I don't know for sure, but I know that when people are writing down to sing a song, I often can do this and it's not wrong, but I will think, how do I write this in a way that's like tailor made for my voice? I feel like Frank goes a step further and is just like, what do I want to say? How do I make my voice achieve this? And you really hear that, like, especially like his Endless project, like really vocally just like inspired me so much because I'm just like, bro, he worked backwards from the emotional energy and the energy that needed to be there, and just takes so much risk with his voice, which I don't even think is something that just happens just when you press record. Like, I don't know, it just really encouraged me to, like, there's things that people will never know I've done and experimented with my voice that is just not recorded, but it's just like screaming and yelling and like observing, like, how fast can I slide from this note to that note? And that it's just experimentation. So I think when I think of Frank, I just think about this, the motivation to be continually experimental and like also using the processing as an instrument, like the way he sings into the auto tune and the way he sings into the reverb, and again mixing with his voice, it's just so dynamic, so dynamic. So those two are my leading, like, you know, I've unlocked so much just by listening to their intentionality in their work, you know. um
Yeah.
so yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Really great answers.
I'm just nerding out like
No, it's so good though, cause I understand it. It takes a lot of time with yourself and getting to know yourself, and the relationship you have with recording yourself to be able to,
mm,
that it's like you experiment and you keep yourself open to like noticing these things, and then you can
yeah.
and then you start to integrate it so it becomes more of like a seamless effort
Yeah.
when you're producing something like vocally.
Yes. Yeah. And my favorite thing about that is when you not only make the observation that it sounds good and like makes you feel good, like on a sensory level, but also unlocks you to say more of what you really want to say in a songwriting sense. That's the beauty of the relationship between
Mm,
songwriting and vocals. It's like once you find that pocket, you're like, huh, when I'm saying it like this in this vocal setup, I feel I can say I love you in the way I want to say I love you. I can say you broke my heart in the
yes.
way you said, you know what I mean? It gets to that point of like, I can be, I'm unlocking
Specific.
accuracy now,
Yeah.
specifics. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, we're communicating now. I'm not talking at you. I'm like, this is really what I mean, you know? So,
I think that's
yeah.
what's beautiful about um, being open to mastering your voice. And
Hmm.
because it's not just the ability to be able to sing and like be perfect in, the technicality of it. It's like the whole expression that comes from your soul, and learning the nuances in your voice to be able to communicate these specific emotions that are yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
I have a memory of when I was about 16 or 17 when my dad got me Logic Pro and I installed it. And
Hmm.
I would sit there, and the way I would approach it was not, I didn't want to just like sing stuff. I imagined it as if it was like, I just have this vivid memory of like the vocal takes and like the layers and stuff. And like, I was more interested in how can I layer all these things, like, and just use my voice in that way. So what was your first experience like using a DAW?
Yeah, no, great question. Like, because in my mind, there's so many different eras of where I feel like I've like had like a rebirth of my approach to like DAWs, but it really did start in high school. I took like you know that you get to that age, I think it's like grades 10, 11, and 12, where like you can start to pick your subjects. So I basically ditched like every subject that wasn't music. And like I'm pretty sure I was doing four music subjects. I was doing like music, music extension, music technology, and then some other like something else. But it was in music technology that I had a teacher who I mean, it was part of the course. You by the end of the course, you would learn how to like, you know, approach like the live sound space and the recorded sound space. But this teacher in particular, just like he really, really, really saw my interest in capturing recordings, and he taught me a lot about what what you can listen out for. And so it actually started with just these assignments of using a DAW to. It would have been like record this violin player or a guitar player. Like it wasn't yet in the realm of we're creating a song or anything like that. But I think observing like the beauty of recording, like we're literally able to capture a real life moment right now, and it somehow ends up on our computer, and then we get to layer it,
It's
but it
so
wasn't
weird.
actually layered in real time. It's magic. It's magic. It's magic. And like, you know, then what would happen is I would skip classes, the other non-music classes, and I just come to the music center because at this point in time we didn't have laptops. There was like one main computer that had this door that and it was Pro Tools at the time. And so I would just come in and it's that same, it was just like what you said. It's like not really understanding the concept of anything other than the fact of like, oh, this stacked with this equals a mood or a texture. Um, so it's just like playing around with the instruments. There's one on Pro Tools called Expand. So I'd be like getting all these synths and all these kind of things. And then definitely I think that's when I was like, oh, ideas are from my mind in this format now. Like it's like I'm clicking save and I'm opening it back up. Like this is like I can save this thing. And then of course, like mixed with like, whatever I was feeling as a teenager at that time, like that's when the whole want to like put words to things kind of came about. And I was already I think writing songs just on the piano, you know what I mean, piano and vocals. But now you're telling me I can stack this? You're telling me I can stack this? You best believe I'm recording this. You best believe it. So that's really what it was. It was like that tail end of high school. I was always friends with like the grade above me too. So it actually worked out really well because when they graduated, I just felt like I had no friends. So I literally would go to the music center all the time and just like make songs and just do all that kind of stuff. And then like I feel like that's when I also had a friend who then introduced me to Ableton. So it was like I was learning on Pro Tools, but I had a friend who also had Ableton. And I would see the way he was doing stuff on Ableton. I'll be like, man, like why do I kind of get this more than that? And so then it turned into like suddenly I was getting a crack of Ableton, and suddenly I'm like, oh, sampling. Like I can just like put this little vocal thing on sampler and just go beep beep, 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 and just like clicking the button. So yeah, like that's a whole like rebirth thing where it's like there's like my journey with like experiencing a door in the first place and then being like, oh, Ableton, like this is like I really connect with this and it this workflow and everything like that. And I would have been like 18 or 19 at that point in time, just recording like songs on my guitar, just harmonies, putting reverb on everything, which I still freaking do is the same reverb, cathedral reverb. Like you know what I mean? It slaps. But yeah, that's kind of where it started. For sure.
So, because you brought up sampling, and I know recently you released a sample pack. So, what was that process like in creating that?
Yes, in creating that, it was a bit of like it was a bit of a trip because I think like I like yeah, it's like sampling is a real ass thing. Like like people that sample music and know how to find the right bits of a song, especially obviously in like hip hop and like spilling over into R&B, like that part of music is so special to me that when I was making the sample pack, I had to jump through a few mental hoops of feeling a bit disconnected from just like the act of making a sample pack because I'm technically like I'm giving this to other people to sample, knowing other people are going to sample it. That's not
Mm-hmm.
really the true spirit of sampling. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the true spirit of sampling is like I'm finding a record and I'm flipping it. But so to know that what I'm making right now is to be flipped while I'm also like recording my whole other artistic music, as my main thing. It was interesting because I was like, I don't really want to give away my sound on a sample pack. Do you know what I mean? If you want to sample my sound, wait for
Oh,
my
yeah,
wait for my
yeah,
music. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
I
I'm not
feel
going to
that.
give that. I'm not going to curate my sound into samples or whatever. But even that's like sometimes like an ego thing anyway. So anyway, the way I got through that was just like, you know what? Just make ideas. I wanted to get better at just like writing concise ideas, I guess, to like, I don't know, get me into the space more of like a bit more intentional like hook writing or anything like that. But I did try as much as I could to keep some essence of the sampling alive, the sample, you know, um, the art of sampling alive in the sense that like most of them, like I didn't really do them to a click track. Like there's some of them that like I just did them from the harmonies in my mind. And I was like, this is not having a click track. Like you can
Yeah.
properly sample this if you want to sample this and make it fit your creation. Like I'm not doing
Yeah.
that for you. Like so yeah, the process was fun. It was mentally a bit interesting. But again, and at that point in time and still am right now, I just want to get better at recording myself. So I think I had to like give myself other tasks that I wanted to achieve in it and then just be like, okay, and here it is. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm all about just like, I'm at a point right now where I'm just like, I would really love for my art to be fueled by my art. And so this was another way, like on the business side, it's like doing it with the company that I did it with. It's like I'm actually getting royalties when they're being used because other sample websites don't assign royalties. So this is another really beautiful thing for me to be like, I actually am providing things that like people can use and they actually get to help me by using my stuff as well. So yeah, and that's been really beautiful to see the reception and like to actually hear them being flipped and used and me to get a little notification like your thing has been placed. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like that's amazing. you know? But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What you said was really interesting about not using click tracks because I find that I really love just also just recording myself on my phone and then with that take I'll put it into Logic and then I'll record harmonies around it without
Yeah.
a time. And
Yeah.
I feel like it also helps you be precise with timing because you're not dependent on like the actual, you know,
Yeah.
click track or whatever to,
Yeah.
yeah. So I know that's helped me
100%.
with my process and yeah. And doing a cappella stuff I really love too.
I'm so for like composing things as far as you can a cappella in the mind if you can because like even just for my artist stuff, like aside from the sample packets, like you can if you really train your mind's ear, whatever you want to call it, you can hear what you want to hear before you really put it down. But sometimes if you've kind of written off the idea of like a cappella stuff or like I need chord space or da 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 da, you kind of like automatically put yourself in lots of boxes, sometimes a genre box, sometimes like a time period box, sometimes all these boxes are now part of it. But when you write a cappella, if you have that relationship with harmony and your voice and you can get through like creating in that way, it's so expansive. And like again, on the accuracy thing, it's kind of just like, oh, I can actually make the production more accurate to this now rather
Mm-hmm.
than fitting it into the other thing. But there's room for that as well, obviously. But yeah, a cappella writing is pretty crazy.
I want to ask about what have been your favorite creative experiences?
Oh, two definitely come to mind. Um, one of them was actually this like a version thing that I was able to do. Like I got a call to do like the backing vocals for a like a version, and the guest was Brockhampton. And I'm not even about to say the performance was my favorite creative experience. It was actually the rehearsal. And so when we were rehearsing this piece, and just seeing the creative energy flow between strangers. Like this is like Brockhampton is like we don't know Brockhampton. Like we're just the band. We're here to like serve you. And we also have this perception of how amazing they are, which is they are literally amazing. But with that comes like I wonder what they're gonna be like in spirit and in this whole dynamic. But I remember that rehearsal just feeling so like electrified with how we're like they just flew in. Like we do not know each other, but we're all here just making music, beautiful music. We're workshopping it on the fly. Like we're just connecting with each other, and like I can't explain it, but I just felt in this moment, like there's certain moments you have and you're just like, oh, like this is why music is such a gift, because you're just you're experiencing whatever it's doing in this moment is just so like healing. It's so healing, and you realize it's music doing it. It's like we literally don't know each other. This is the work of connecting through music. Um, that's definitely one of them. And yeah, there's a few like flashes of like childhood memories as well. But another one is just like more recently I just had like with my friends in LA, like um for a long time. Only just recently I'm learning to like write with other people in the room. And it's not even like I've decided I've wanted to be this way. It's just been the nature of just like my personality and me figuring out myself musically, and like being in Melbourne and like just the collaborative culture and everything like that. But like for a, for as long as I can remember, like if I'm writing a song, like I'm writing it by myself, like on some like in a dark room, like I'm crying, like leave me alone, like this is what I need to output, you know what I mean?
That's
And I
me
kind of
too.
always felt a little bit, yeah, and I kind of always was like, damn, like is this really gonna be how it is? Like, am I really gonna like to write albums? Am I gonna have to write albums like this? Like, it's kind of sustainable. I don't know if I want to do this. Um, but that's why this experience was so like relieving for me, because I had just got into LA and just like meeting like Instagram friends that I knew we would all get along, but you never really know until you
Mm-hmm.
meet them. And just clicking with my friends like Rohan, Karan, and Case. Amazing musicians, amazing producers, amazing people. And going through this, it was so hilarious, bro. Like when I tell you, like I was just like at their place for a long amount of time, just like not even just making music. We'd like play video games and all this type of stuff. But when I tell you, like I want to say we spent like 2 days making parody songs, like the absolute most trash songs you could ever hear. Like I pray to God they never reach the internet, because they're so embarrassing. Like they're so embarrassing. And I'm thinking, like, even that was one of my favorite creative experiences. 'Cause I was like, this is so funny. And I never thought, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is what it's meant to be. We all just bond together and we all know we could do music, but we're not really trying to do anything. And that was it. But actually, the following day, after this experience of just throwing absolute bull crap at the wall and for some reason validating it as like just hilarious. The next day, we had this moment of just flow, of just
Mm.
flow. Like Case was playing the bass and he was really letting me into like workshopping certain things with him so it would fit with my vocals. And then before you know it, like I've done a melody pass that's like ended up being literally pretty much exactly the vocals that the vocal melody that I did cut when I filled it in with lyrics and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, I can collaborate. I just need to feel comfortable enough.
Yeah, no, that's so real. Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe it. So I'm like no longer picturing myself only in a dark room when I picture my future bodies of work. I'm like, no, people can be involved. I could do this. I could do this, you know? But the value of a safe space, you know?
No, that's
That's
so real because I also think about my experiences and I've done collaborations in the past, but I also felt like for me personally, my journey, it really had to be me being connected to my process and just figuring it
yeah.
out myself. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I can go and expand back into like a more social collaborative space, but it's also for me the importance of feeling safe around the people creatively
Yeah.
because I feel like there's a lot of bullying and a lot of like just, you know, ego, and people will shun you, embarrass you because of like
Yeah.
this perfectionist and like perfectionist and standard, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do you feel about that moving forward into
Yeah.
your collaborative efforts?
It's so funny because I feel so many things about it now because it is one of those things where like you can have one idea about it and then the more positive experiences you have, you start to feel more clued on as to why maybe you're yeah, like I don't even want to say negative, like it's like it is always negative, but just experiences where there wasn't much flow, like why that was. And I think um a big there's always a bit of teething, I think, especially like I can't lie, like as a female, as a female being the singer in the room, it's really easy to just be expected to sing and
Yeah.
not understand what yeah, just not understand like why you're really there, even though it's for your music, but it's like so what you mentioned even before about really understanding your process, that's like such a producer thing. Do you know what I mean? Because it's actually like feeling liberated to be like, yes, I'm working with producers, but there is a realm where actually we're going to get closer to what we want and what I'm going to put out and what is true to me if you allow me to take a little bit of the voice of a producer as well. And what I realize it happens is that sometimes people walk in with these like ideas of what they're meant to do in a room, which sometimes is exactly that. But I think it's too many assumptions too soon and duplicating the same set of assumptions into every single moment is what causes tension points. Because these tension points aren't always even like there's not always words to put. It's like a body language thing. It can be a dismissive thing. And sometimes that is again within the safety of people that you feel safe with, meaning I even think of that like what really is safety. And in a collaborative environment, it's there is a push and pull because in true safety as well, you want to be able to tell someone, yo, like, let's move on to the next idea. That's
Yeah.
safety as much as it is being like, let's have, I feel like this person is patient enough to, you know, ride this idea out with me or, you know, whatever it is. But I think ultimate safety is knowing that, you know, we're just trying to make, we're just trying to make the best song we can right now. It's not about me. It's not about like me getting to say I did this or I did that. Um, and if all you did was literally bring someone some water in the session. Do you know what I mean? It's like being okay with like being in spaces and being like, I'm not here to do too much. Um, and recognize when it is your time that to really tap into your skill set and invite people into that process in the same way, you know, understanding other people's processes. And I really feel that with singers, it's like the more singers that I talk to, um, we hear things and we actually don't say it because it feels like it's not in the realm of singing and writing. But it's like if we unlock that relationship and that language of like, oh, I actually kind of like, you know, the amount of songs that could just feel so much more like what you would actually put out if you just had the confidence to be like, I don't like that snare. I don't like these drums. It's the processing. Do you know what I mean? But for some reason you're like, oh, but that's the producer's thing and da da da. It's like, what if we're all just co-creating right now and this is just about extracting people's taste? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Sorry, I kind of like talked in circles about around that, but
No, not at all.
yeah, I also think something that I think is worth like if everyone just did this a little bit more, it would help is like don't assume you are a safe space in the same way we often talk about, oh, this isn't a safe space for me. In the same way, don't assume you're a safe space. It's constant work. When you're in the room,
Mm,
keep refining how to be a safer space because your ego will prick up. You know what I mean? Your ego will pick up and sometimes it's fun and it's necessary and you actually it's good to kind of be like, nah, straight up, no, this is the wrong way, let's do this, and suddenly we're doing a whole different, like, it's necessary, but like just don't assume that's always safe, you know, and don't feel entitled to people's trust.
that's actually huge bringing that up because I also think about the space that I'm trying to create for artists, but it's also a constant observation of myself and my own boundaries, but also how does this match up to the needs of artists too? So it's a constant refinement process.
Mm, mm,
And I think, like you were saying, in those spaces of collaboration, you're being with people with different personalities and energies and contexts and trauma too. That's going to influence the whole experience. So
yeah.
you interacting with each other is going to produce these reflections. And yeah, so I really like that you brought that up.
mm, for sure. And I think like that's another thing is like in different spaces you'll notice how personable the spaces feel. It's like the difference between like, you know, yo, the session starts at 2 and ends at 4 and we only have these 2 hours. Like obviously again, like I'm not talking about when you're locked in with people and sometimes it's like everyone knows like, man, this is just about getting the vocals done. But it's like, you know, do you want to talk? Do you want to get some food? Do you want to get inside my brain? Like, do we want to get to know each other? Because the way we are as people in life usually kind of is reflected into the way we operate in music. It's, you know what I mean? So that's another thing that I noticed is like people have sometimes a little bit of like a workhorse mentality towards getting songs done. And again, like, you know, in the songwriter world, like there's spaces for that. Sometimes you got to get a job done. But again, it's like just lessening the assumptions and stop duplicating the same process for every single moment. Like man, this opens up so many things of just like, you know, even how money plays into it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How do you act when you feel like you're paying someone for their time in a kind of in a way that feels suffocating versus in a way that feels honoring? There's so many emotions behind the things that are interplaying in collaboration. And that's a big thing that I've noticed is that like my favorite spaces is like when we're not really thinking about that. We're not really thinking about the back end or the this is my hourly rate or whatever. It's just like, man, because the moment we just put that aside, we're actually being like, we don't know what's gonna happen, but something cool could really happen, and we're not gonna rush it. You know what I mean? And sometimes stuff happens faster that way anyway, you know?
Have you been in like collaborative situations where it has been more of that, like, let's execute our roles and the job that we need to do right now?
Yeah, I have, and that's why I'm just like, there is a time and a place for it. Like I almost the most important part of like a song coming to life for me, like the part that you want to be the most fluid and flexible with is the genesis idea of like when the concept is organically birthing, when we're getting an idea of what kind of style we're in, like what are the sensibilities that we're naturally going to keep coming back to and all that kind of stuff. That's when it needs to be as less force and as less pressure as possible. And you really got to trust each other to like go down the different rabbit holes to be like, what about this and what about and I want to tweak this da 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 da. When the workhorse, like we're doing a job now stuff really comes in and where I really feel like it is just necessary, especially like considering time and like just a certain caliber, is once we're sold on the genesis idea. Do you know what I mean? We have an idea that's moving me. Now it's like we're talking about sound replacement, we're talking about little mix things, we're reworking vocals, we're recutting vocals, and that's like a, you know, nobody talk to me, I just need to do this, you know what I mean? Like I need to lock in right now. But what I see is sometimes when that time is ticking da 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 mentality is applied to when something's literally just sprouting, it's just consciousness just sprouting, it's too much. It's like you just it's too many too much expectation on something that you literally don't even know what it is yet, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I feel you. How do you perceive the music industry right now?
Right now, I, to be honest, and this is me being really, really, really honest, is like now more than ever, um, with to like the state of the world, the way I perceive the music industry when I picture it, I just kind of picture it as this chunk of extremely talented people in terms of the creators and extremely influential people in terms of like the business side and people that are amplifying the talent and stuff like that, that there's a lot of moving in fear
Mm.
and not enough moving in surrender and in a place of honoring why we even have these gifts and talents in the first place. And that's why, you know, that's why it does come to mind when I think of the music industry, because ideally, like obviously we live in a freaking society with money and everything. Ideally, we would not be selling music. Like ideally we wouldn't be selling art. Like you know what I mean? There's it's only an industry because there's something to be sold. That's what makes an industry. And so what I'm seeing is that now is a very challenging time for people to reflect on what part they play in this industry. No one's saying tear down the whole music industry, because actually we can do a lot if we utilize this industry in the way that it has the influence and already certain pillar points of influence on the culture, on people's minds, on all of this kind of stuff. But is a lot of ambiguity on what the goal is, and I think that's a conversation people need to have with themselves, is like, you know, at what point are we going to recognize that this is about music, and yes, selling is a thing, but at what point, like what is it going to take in the world for us to resist on, you know, certain deals, certain certain partnerships that just spring into a trajectory that is like, you know, you can kind of foresee, it's like, man, like this is not really contributing to forward motion as much as it is just ambiguity and just like self-serving, you know? And it's so hard. It's so hard because it's like every industry is like I said, it's like things are being sold for a reason. Like people need to be paid, people need to be da 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 da. But that's why for the music industry, man, we're all making music. If you're a creator, I have a lot of questions for like, we don't all want to be in the industry. Ideally, we wouldn't be in this industry. So if we're the same people saying that, now is the time to figure out how we can align our creative's energy more with that sentiment that we say we believe so much. Man, F the industry, da 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 da. But it's like, yeah, but you're playing into it in other ways, as in this constant capitalizing, and this constant like feeding into culture certain messaging that now more than ever needs to be interrogated as to why we're consuming this stuff. What is the effect it's having on our minds and our health and our ability to make decisions and our ability to connect with each other and relationships and all this? What is it? All of that. Sorry, ignore any, like, cancel out everything I just said. What is this doing about our ability to recognize the need for love? It's just about
Mm,
love. You know what I mean? So this love for music and this love to create that we all very innocently started out with. Okay, let's take that a bit more seriously now. I'm not trying to say don't do your deals. I'm not trying to say you babes, you like don't be throw away your dreams of being a superstar. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying the relationship you have with music, question it and how it plays into this system that we're in, you know?
absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I do what I do, because throughout my experiences, I've been able to identify this just really intense contrast between the integrity of being able to hold space for creatives and artists to truly invest and deepen themselves in their creative process. And then these things around it, business wise, industry wise, that
Yeah.
you want to be able to project yourself and be visible and be seen and all that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of it is premature to where the artist is actually ready and where they're at in their life, because it's not just
Yes.
like, okay, I'm an artist and you could be really great at what you do, but there's also a sense of readiness and a rite of passage that comes with
Yeah.
that for you to fully express yourself into the world. So I think it's really important to consider that, rather than just making decisions of like, if you're presented with an opportunity or a deal or something,
Yeah.
you have to really know yourself and be in tune with yourself to be like, is this something that's really in alignment with my path right now?
Yeah.
But it's spiritual, having that sense of connectedness.
Yeah. And I think, like, that's where it's like there's so many nuances in that. And I think that's why, like, in simplified terms, like the best thing that we can do as creators is like recognize, like, try to refine the way we use our compass. And sometimes it's simplifying the compass to just love and fear. Love
Yep.
and fear. Can you recognize when it's heading more into this thing of, like, you're operating from a place of fear, or operating from a place of love, which love is just, it's trusting in that love is sustainable. Do you know what I mean? Trusting that there is that around you to carry you through and also be of service to other people. Love will never only just serve you. You know what I mean? So the fear is actually the lack of the trust that that's enough, that other is enough. So it's like that, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
you get to the point where it's like the more you do operate as best as you can from that pathway of love, you'll notice there are people that do their business in alignment with that way. There are
Mm.
people that are willing to be a part of this whole takes a village mentality. This is where I'm at with, like, it takes a village. People Some people let's say it takes a village, but really they want to say it takes a paid village. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, I get it, again, nuance there, but it's like it takes a lot of people aligning with that their bearings and understanding, I'm going to agree to navigate like this. Finding other people, I'm going to agree to navigate like this. We're all going to trust that we're going to bring something into the world that's going to amplify this very energetic thing that we were just refining. Because what are you really amplifying once you know partner with things that are in that premature stage? Like, you're amplifying more prematurity and
Yes.
attracting more premature minds that don't know how to interpret correctly because of the prematurity.
And don't know how to, like, even as an artist or creative, align with you,
Yes.
because it takes a sense of knowing yourself. And then if you put yourself in those kind of situations prematurely, I think there's just a sense of disconnect there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what, you know, to go back to your question about the music industry, it's like that sense of disconnect, like that's all the ambiguous energy that I'm just like right now. It's like, man, we really got to interrogate that, of just like it's taking up so much unnecessary space and time sometimes, like, not to be like to discredit people's journey or anything like that, but it's like the faster you recognize something is premature, like you just got a cheat code right there. Let me just take a step back and work on the maturity. That's such a great journey, and when you come back, you can actually contribute something that is like has some movement to it. You know what I mean? We can talk about what is this actually doing, rather than this it's just staying in this middle, and it's just like ambiguous, and we wonder why the world is so confused, like, you know.
Yeah, there's two things that you said. I love the idea that love is sustainable, because we make a lot of decisions on this fear, like the basis of fear.
Mhm.
And I totally understand that there are people that need to make certain decisions.
Yeah.
But also, I think if you truly want to step into your calling, and your service as an artist, as even someone that's a business person, you have to identify that love is sustainable. And that's what's going to
Yes.
carry sustainable through your business, through your creativity. Like, you have to, in every aspect of yourself, through the process, anchor that in, so it builds momentum, for you to carry out your service in the way that it's in the integrity of it.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
there was another thing that you said, but I just forgot because I went on a tangent.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Yeah, but I feel you
Um,
though. I feel you.
how would you describe your relationship to God and how that is intertwined with creativity?
Mm, I think at the moment I'm in a place with God where um there's just a deeper acknowledgement from myself that in this relationship God really is God, and I don't need to know everything. And um when he makes us, we are made in his image, meaning there are so many reflection points within us that are literally just like God knows them so deeply because it is God. Do you know what I mean? Like, so recognizing that if God made me and gave me these very things, when I don't know what to do with these things, and it's just like not even just about like time and talents or create, it's just life. It's just with life. Go to the one that instilled these very things in you. You know what I mean? It's like I think I'm at a place where I'm just like, man, like it's like it's like watching a movie and being like, damn, I wonder how they did that. Damn, I wonder how they did that. Damn, well, how did they make that decision? Man, that was so genius. Man, they really did it. And just being like, I wonder who did it. And then like never reading the credits. You know what I mean? Never, like it's like I'm at that place where I'm just like really understanding, like, God, like you really know everything though. You know everything. You made everything. You're the most intricate designer. Do you know what I mean? So you know all the nuances that I don't, and that's where I'm at right now. It's like I don't need to know. I'm less about like knowing now, because even knowledge, my relationship to knowledge and creativity and God is a big thing that I'm going through, of just like, I don't need to know. I'm looking more to just sense and to trust and experiment, and to just know that I'm ultimately safe when I'm doing that with God. That's the only knowing that I need now. So the way that that's impacted my creativity is, at least for, I guess sometimes like making music, it's less of a judgmental space, because it's like, literally, why? Like, I'm just spending my time just like making something right now. Like, why is this harsh voice, And even when it comes to like, curating things and refining things, when it comes to taste, and that point where like you do need to let in like critical voices and stuff like that, it's not affecting my identity anymore. You know what I mean? Because I think that's what I mean. It's like, I am a creation of God. That I'm winning. I'm like, God literally made me, bro, with so much love. I am winning. Like, that's it. That's it. I get to make music. I get to express. I get to emote. That's where I'm at. It's a gift to be doing this. But then obviously, in the realm of like, wanting to pursue this in this world and this life, how that interacts with creativity, I think my relationship with God is like very much at a point where it's like, I don't I don't want to I don't want to be taking um as many steps as where I once was, wondering what people will think about me. And it's just like, that's a big one, because that can affect a lot of your creative decisions, and therefore how effective you are in the service that God really wants to do through you. And again, with creativity, it's kind of like the biggest art pieces that I'm working on right now actually seem to be more conversational, and I'm so about that it's like, you're writing, like, your life is your album, your life is your song. So how are you gonna spend so much time like writing songs and, dedicating all this time to your craft, which is so necessary? Put in your 10,000 hours, like, work, the mechanics of your unique vessel and all that kind of stuff. But then also forget this same mentality of like humbling yourself to like a creative process of creating something from nothing. Why? Like, what's up with the resistance towards that in hard conversations with friends, peers, mentors, family, between you and God? So I'm just trying to apply a healthy mentality of like songwriting to all facets of life. That's where I'm at with God, and just feeling like that's what God is gifting me with the perspective of. It's like, this is all, I just feel like God going, this is all songwriting, babe. This is all songwriting. This is all co-creation. This is all unlocking little things. And how do you want to be in that space? Do you want to be a person that moves with assumption, that moves with this need for finality? Do you want to be this person that is so, like, you edit so much, you edit your song so much, you're such a believer in editing, but you don't even want to edit a conversation and apologize for something? You don't want to edit your behavior? You don't want to do another mix revision? Like, what's up with that? What is up with that? Like, you know what I mean? That's, I hope this answers the question. It's
Yeah.
just, that's where I'm at.
No.
It's all one. Art is, it's just my life now. It's not that it wasn't before, but when I say it's my life now, it's in the sense of when I'm surrendering my art to God, it's my life. Like, I'm really trying to just surrender my life to God, because we don't have time. We don't have time to do it half-heartedly anymore. We don't have time, you
It's so
know?
real. That's so real. Because
Yeah.
I see a part of the disconnection right now that I see is, you know, creatives and artists, they obviously are inspired to create because there's something that's connecting them to express, right? But I also think on a worldly level, because just the way things are set up, we forget that and we kind of separate everything. But
Mhm.
it is really important to, if you are an artist, to view yourself as a divine creator, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and your creative process is reflective of your evolution as a human. It's not different, you know. So all these um because I've really seen my process and just like the resistance and the challenges that come along with just even being able to express myself and produce something and like
Mm,
feel content with it. That comes from like this deep wound that we have of just
mm-hmm.
being able to express ourselves and the
Yes.
trauma that we carry, you know? So that's why it's like as you go through these nuances and the new belief systems that you adopt as you overcome each challenge and um you're evolving as a human
Yeah.
in alignment with God. You know, it's not
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah. And isn't that the reward?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's also that is like, and isn't that enough? Like, what is this scrambling that we do of just like more, 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 more? It's like this is this experience. This is it. It's here right now.
Hmm.
You know?
That's the service. That is the service to God, is to and to live in your most authentic is expression, is to be so immersed in this process and overcome the belief systems that we carry, you know, that are imposed on us. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not just the service and the gift isn't just like giving things to the public. That's a part of it,
Yeah.
the outcome.
Yep.
It's the actual creative process where you
Yeah.
sit with yourself in some really uncomfortable, challenging emotions, the ways
Yeah.
that you undermine yourself,
Mm-hmm.
the ways that you perceive yourselves and perceive yourself and the way you're limiting yourself.
Mm.
These, yeah, it's so deep. It is so
It's
deep.
so deep. It is. It is. And that's that maturity thing is like the most mature, I guess, mindset is to know that it's also limitless. Do you know what I mean? This part of the conversation is like it's limitless. Like it's like there's never like a you stop growing in this mindset or that there's not a new thing to discover. There's not a new thing to confront. You know what I mean? I think that this idea that like okay now I've got it. It's kind of goes hand in hand with the prematurity. So it's like you were looking to like get something. You know, it's like there's always something to get. This doesn't really end. You know what I mean? So it kind of affects the way you take your strides forward, whether it's from a place of you know growth and something that can attract a certain type of reception that promotes more growth, or something that's just like I'm just gonna kind of just like pull myself out there, but I don't really know what I'm energetically contributing right now or what I'm even wanting to attract from. It's like
Mhm.
because I've decided it's like a I know I'm ready thing, but it's like no, it's not about knowing. You know what I mean? It's not about knowing a set amount of things. It's like surrendering more to the fact that we don't know. There's so much to discover, you know?
Yeah, it really is just limitless. That's
Yeah. Yeah. It's just fucking crazy.
it.
It's so
Um,
crazy.
okay, so I want to understand what your vision is for your future and what you kind of see contributing to, I guess, the music industry or the creative world.
Yeah. Whew. It's obviously like with anything with the future, it's like there's so many moving parts, but like I've just been getting an image lately, and it's all I'm really just walking towards. And it is just a light. It's just a light, a beaming, beaming big light. I'm not even saying that light is me. I really see it as like God, as Jesus, the embodiment of love. Um, my vision is to see that see that spill out, into not only the world, but then obviously, in terms of my future and how I, fit into that, it's kind of just like I just see it being a lot of surrender, just a lot of surrender. Like, obviously, I have, things I want to do. I want to put out my music the way I've been dreaming to. I want to put out larger bodies of work. I want to finally communicate more accurately what the past couple of years have been like for me, um, musically, through putting out, what I've been working on and stuff like that. But for real, like like in terms of this light, like I just see that when I look at this light, like that isn't about like music or a sound or anything like that. It's about people. It's literally about people, and that's why it's like it is like what you're saying. It's like what I envision for my future. It ties into the business side. It ties into people. It ties into my family, my friends, my community in Melbourne. Who have a specific dreams and goals and specific limitations from just our location and what we have access to and all these things. Like, I just see sustainability in the light. That's what I just feel like. I just see whatever's going to happen. I want to look back on it and be like, you trusted so much that you didn't have to do the dirty business and step on people's necks, and you used your time currency in unique ways that didn't make sense, but this constant renewing of time. I just think God just can renew time. Like, I'm really at this place where I'm just like, man, like I don't really it's not really about like, you're in a rush to like put out this music or da da da. It's like, if I have to have an important conversation with my family or with God, and that's gonna take me months and months and months, I'm gonna do that. That's my art piece. Again, that's my album, that's my life. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And so, yeah, for me personally, I just want to become sharper and sharper and just knowing that that's what I'm here to do. And, like, if I do, become a voice of encouragement to people that let me into that space, I'm gonna double down on that. Like, I want to be up people's back to like do that as well. And, I see, people walking ahead of me and side to side and behind. It's like it's just this thing where it's just like um I see people teaching me how to do that more. You know what I mean? And friendships walking across with me of like, okay, we're kind of in this together. And then, hopefully passing on things to people behind me. Like, it's just love. I just see a lot of love as the fuel now, and just and there will definitely be tests, but yeah, just that sustainability and love and passing it on, just passing it on. It almost in a matter of urgency. Like, I'm sure you can even pick up on it. It's like I'm kind of stuttering because I'm just like I'm trying to hold back how much I'm just like, oh, we need this. We need this, guys. We need this. Of course I want to be in rooms like with lots of people, like, and singing these songs and bonding in that way. And like, I hope that when I put my music out, it's like it contributes to healing. You know what I mean? But I just, yeah, it's, yeah,
I'm really
just that.
curious. No, that's so much and that's so deep. I'm also curious if there's any specific type of experiences you've been thinking about that you would like to facilitate being able to identify these things and maybe some of the lack of things.
Mm, yeah, that's such a good question. Definitely two things come to mind. Use of language when it comes to uh creative spaces, and I guess like how that interconnects with just us as a society and the language that we use. Like, meaning like the messaging of things. I really would love to facilitate a space and be facilitated to in this space of like, how can how can artists who for the most part we go towards our art to communicate, things that can't be communicated just through conversational stuff alone, how can more artists build the courage to also tap into the conversational realm? Because I do believe art art, like, you know, whether it's a painting or like a sound or a song or anything like that, there's a reason why it's a universal, like, it's a universal language, you know what I mean? Because it's on our, it's taps into our senses rather than our knowing or anything like that. But I do feel like we're in a time where our use of language has been so wishy-washy, especially in our generation, where it's like our perception has been affected so much. And this isn't to say to control people of like how they're perceiving art, but like I really feel like that I would love to see more courage from artists in this time where we do have the internet, we have the social media, to put their art out and in a way that is honoring to their art. Also understand that there is also a calling behind closed doors with your peers, with your family, with your workmates, and maybe, yes, on your public platforms, to also have a conversation, just conversation, meaning dialogue beyond your art. Because I think sometimes this gift that's been given to artists as like a, you know, a way to communicate things through these mediums can also pacify us into like realms of lack of accountability, you know? Um, yeah, and I like, I was gonna say, and I hate to be political, but it's like, I don't hate to be political, but it's like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like we're in a world and we're all trying to help each other survive and all of these things. It's like sometimes listening to a song isn't gonna solve these problems as much as the person who sang the song saying something. You know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
it's a language. Sometimes it's a language thing, and I'm not trying to say everyone needs to speak on their public platforms in that way. It's like there's always work to be done. So it's just that sense. And in terms of facilitating that space, I see that space more being about, not, it's not actually a space where suddenly we're preaching. I actually see that space being more a space to build confidence with each other. Even this is a confidence building space. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're showing me what my language is translating to. I'm understanding how something's translating to you because we're going there, because we're talking about it. Now I can have more confidence to use this wording and experience the co-creation of conversation. You know what I mean? But without that, it's just like, well, we're not really, I don't know if we're effectively communicating, you know? So that's one thing. Another thing that comes to mind is just the need to play instruments and sing with our raw voice again. Like, it's
Yes.
just like, man, I don't know what it's gonna be, but I really just have like, I just have a dream of freaking like, you get a piano, you get a piano, you get a guitar, you get a guitar, you get a freaking, what do you want? You want a flute? Play it. Flute lessons. I just, you know what I mean? It's like I just, the need to feel things, touch
Yeah.
something, like
Yeah.
hear the sound, let it really resonate with you. I don't care if you can't sing. Sing.
Yep.
Baby, sing. Like,
Yep.
please let it out. You know what I mean? This, our actual bodies, we need to, it's like we need to exercise movement and connect our brain to the way we're moving, to what we're hearing, to what we're feeling in a much more intentional way right now. Like the way that I've just like, I've really in the past couple of months, like I've just been in a place where I've been in such a, like such a place of loss for words, and I really felt so suffocated. And then I was like, play the piano. Play the piano.
Mm.
Like, doesn't even matter if it doesn't sound good. Play something. String together something. And the way that that has slowed my spirit and softened my spirit so much. And I can tell you, like, I'm able to persist through real life conversations that have dialogue in them because I freaking took the time to just play the piano. Just, you know what I'm saying? And it's so different to me getting my mic. I'm not trying to say there's no, I'm not trying to have a dig at like the recording space, but I'm speaking to the culture of, we think about making music and creating as this studio thing. It's like, man, like,
Mm.
fill up some water in a cup and ding it with a spoon if that's what you have to do. Like, but you know what? I just touch something.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the sensitivity and awakening your
yes.
senses, and yeah, we've definitely it's that's definitely shifted, you know. I
Yeah.
think when you said that, I think about how I'm just dancing, like,
Yes.
and yeah, I'm just dancing, moving my body around, and yeah, I also just had a thought, like, I think it was like yesterday or today, in the recent past, but it was like, yo, some people are very stuck in their mind and their because there's just so many challenges and issues we come and we tend to just like internalize everything. But there are ways that we can just move our body and connect
Yeah.
with sound, connect with our
Yeah.
senses, and that helps open us up and release these kinds of things. So I've been finding recently that I've just been dancing and I'm like, I know I've always been a good dancer, like, but I'm not like pro where I've
Yeah.
like done classes and stuff, but I'm just moving my body in a way that's free and I'm not overthinking it. And I'm like, I'm really good at this shit.
I feel you. I feel you. I really do. I've been feeling the same way with dancing as well. Like, just as someone that, like, I would say, like, I was pretty stuck in my body and in my mind. And yeah, like realizing that just like playing things or just play, because it's like, what are you really dancing for? It's like it's not really a set answer. It's just to be free. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So it's like, how much is doing that and going to these spaces that we can, express ourselves in, it creates resilience in us to be free, to literally be free, because a lot of times we're not free,
yeah,
and we need free minds and we need free bodies and we need a sense of courage when important decisions come up and important conversations come up, to like, to yeah, to be grounded. And I'm not quite sure how honest we can be in doing that if we don't, if we're not valuing that sense of freedom and the ways we can tap into that. And it really is like a valuing the sense of freedom, because it doesn't mean that you won't still have blockages or you won't still feel limited, or there still won't be obstacles or things that God wants to teach you. But it's like, I had to really ask myself that question, like, do I actually value freedom? Do you know what I mean? Or like, am I kind of quite happy being stuck in whatever cycles I'm stuck in? And the confronting answer is, some days it was like, yeah, I'd rather be stuck. And it's like, okay, let's, do you not believe you deserve to be free?
mm,
That's when it gets into that thing, and that's goes into love. And do we even know how loved we are? Um, that yeah, we're allowed to be free. Love sets us free.
absolutely. I think that's also a place that I'm in right now. I've just had a bunch of things that have happened where I'm like, I'm just tired of suffering. I'm so tired of suffering, undervaluing myself. And, some of the things that happen, it kind of just, it's like a catalyst. It's like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I
Mm,
feel connected with God in just such a, there's always just new levels to it. It never stops. Every time I
yeah,
think like I'm so connected and I'm like, these things happen and I'm like, I'm even more connected and it just
I
never
know.
ends.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that, yeah, it's, oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I really feel that. It's like, it just never ends, you
Yeah.
know? And that is that abundance of love. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it does never end. And that's why it's sustainable, because it does
Yes.
it's good, bro. It's flowing, like, it was always flowing, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it never ends regardless of us knowing that or not, you know.
You know, I'm really curious about your ancestry, and because I feel like as humans, we all have different templates and things that we've inherited from, it could be a whole bunch of different things, but like I feel very connected to my ancestry and I can easily identify what it is about, whether it's my parents or my
Mm,
just ancestral lineage and the culture, because I'm Polish. I was born in
mm,
Australia, but I have Polish heritage, and just there's a specific type of frequency that is.
yeah.
So I've been able to, kind of understand what parts of myself that I want to take moving forward to be of service,
Yeah.
and just express through my artistry and creativity and all that kind of stuff. So is I want to understand more about that for you, and is that something you kind of integrate and think deeply about?
Mm. Again, really good question that is right on time because I think it's definitely a journey for me, and I think I've only been conscious of my understandings and lack of understandings in the way that I have been really recently. And I think that comes from finally getting the time or space, or for whatever reason, just room to acknowledge a lot of a big self-rejecting cycle that I've been in. Um, which yeah, it's kind of sad because it's like really I think everyone should be just proud to be who they are. But I think I'm Indian, my parents are like fully Indian. All my ancestry would be like Indian for like as far as we, before we get into the like, Adam and Eve and like are we all interconnected? Like, you know what I mean? But it's like I'm Indian. And like I was born in India but moved around a lot very quickly. So like lived in New Zealand for 8 years, starting from when I was like 6 months. Um and then moved to Brisbane. So like moved to Australia when I was 8 years old, but again within Australia, Brisbane, which is very different to Melbourne. So and then like only recently I've been to LA and America and seeing even like the difference in like people's like Indian people's connection to being Indian and how it changed in all the different places that I'm experiencing and witnessing. And um definitely being in Brisbane, like as in like before I moved to Melbourne, I don't know if I even registered who I was because my environment around me was so like uh just yeah, propelling a cycle of self-rejection. I was just like I didn't want to be brown. I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to like and all the signals I was getting was that like this thing about you is making my life harder. It's adding complications and it's confusing me. And but to be honest, that is also the same time that I felt my um need for music as survival for me. Like in that point, it didn't become a I like music, I want to do music. It's like, man, music is kind of like the only thing like saving me right now. You know what I mean? And it's an escape, but not always just like a pacifying escape. It was genuinely a place where it was giving me hope of like, hearing yeah, songs of pain or songs of hope or just things that I resonated with. That's when I really started like music became like my fantasy reality place. And so now I'm like 25 and I'm really thinking about what it means to bring honor to my family and what it means, like even my grandma right now, she's in Brisbane, and like understanding that like she was a dancer that never got to pursue dancing, and how beautiful it is that for some reason my parents, who are immigrants, you know what I mean, who like change everything about their life to give myself and my sister a new life, aren't the ones being like, you must go to medical school. Not that there's anything wrong with going to medical school, but it's like when you're Indian, it's like there's this kind of like thing about this, like this academic lean towards everything, which my parents have been really like nuanced in their understanding, because it's like it's not like whatever mentality the academic lean gives somebody, like it's not like I don't have that at all. Like I'm very serious about my stuff, you know, and what I like, that sometimes it's time pressure, and this like what is this all for, and like the way that interacts with like, you know, like being faithful with the little, and more will be given to you, and all these things, and how that like finances, all these things, like I feel that heavy, like that's in me, that's in my spirit, my soul, my brain, like from my parents, and like from most other like Indians around me, from most other brown people, it's there. But I feel like I'm in a place now where I'm like feeling so thankful to be outworking some of these values in partnership with musical talents and musical mediums in a way that's kind of just like, I don't know, I really just think about my grandma. I'm just like, damn, like what do you mean like she was an artist? What do you mean
Mm,
she was an artist that never got to be an artist? Like that's so beautiful for my family that like one of us got to like do it in this time, with no resistance, no resistance from my family, none at all. That is a, I can only imagine, you know, what that's going to do for my kids, what that's going to do for one day when I get to where I want to get to, and someone that looks like me sees me doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? As I have no idea what God's doing and all of that. You know what I mean? But it's like even just learning more about like the history of like the economy in India, and like, you know, jewelry, and just the nature of like the trading that happened and all these kind of things. It's like I do feel a lot of like, you know, fuel. The more that I research and the more that I understand, and the more that I feel moved by what has happened to not only like, you know, Indian people, but for the most part, like a lot of cultures that, you know, experience like, you know, merging of different trades and just systems being built and all those kind of things. Like what it then means to be doing art in the first place. You know what I mean? Like I
mhm.
feel that heavy. Like to be doing this is a resistance, and is is like it's kind of a protest for me at this point. You know what I mean? On a lot of things. And yeah. So I yeah, there's so much more to it, and there's so much more for me to expand on and for me to grow in. And there, I know the touch points that I have that are just so sensitive to me. It's just like it's just so many question marks that I'm almost just like, whoa, this is really, this one's gonna really take me a minute to really like unpack how this integrates into my journey, or even, you know, like even just me feeling so um so disconnected from like the knowledge about like Indian music. You know what I mean? But when I hear it, so connected. But it's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like there's a heartbreak in that. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm just like, man, like why am I even singing in English? Like why? You know, like it gets like that.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know? So, you know, we all for the most part are doing what we know how to do with what we have in front of us. And so just trying to be gentle with myself on like how all of these things play into each other, and especially on how it plays into how it can feel like you are worthy or unworthy, because that's when it really gets into like, man, you just got to know God, because it's like everyone is worthy, no matter how much you know or don't know, or behind, or you know, perceptions you had that you're readjusting. It's like God still wants to use you, and God still wants to work through you. And um yeah, that's just the thing I'm protecting the most. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. I really felt emotional as you were talking about that because I also see parallels in when you brought up your grandmother and you being kind of the extension of that, you know, you pursuing your dreams.
Mm,
And I've had conversations with my mom where she used to love singing and being in the choir, and like she wanted to be a singer, but in
wow.
Poland she didn't even think that was like a possibility. So like I feel there's a part of me that's really honored that through their immigration here to Australia that I've been afforded that opportunity where I don't
Mm,
have that resistance. Like I can just
yeah.
follow my dreams. And my mom has just been, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. My mom has
Yeah.
just been there to support it, you know?
It's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah.
It's whew. I feel you. I
Yeah.
feel you.
So, yeah, I just want to acknowledge you and the work that you're doing. And, you know, it is really important. And just having this conversation, I have loved it. Every time we talk, I feel connected to you and the words that you use and the way you express yourself. And I think there's going to be a lot in here that people need to hear, that people need to be reminded of. And it's essentially why I wanted to facilitate these conversations so we can remember who we are.
Mm, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. No, thank you for creating this space and like following the promptings because it's all promptings. Creating a space starts from these little promptings and you choose to follow them or you choose to, you know, not follow them and I've seen you for like a number of years now really develop a beautiful relationship with following these promptings to create spaces and facilitate and I even, you know, before this conversation I've felt like this is a very impactful space that you are creating beyond what you even know, you know what I mean, like just beyond what you even know. And yeah, it's an honor to be a part of this small, you know, part of all the things that is gonna come to fruition. So I appreciate
Thank
you
you so
thinking of me.
much.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've always felt the love from you and your ability to just get it. You just get it.
Ability to just get it is crazy.
No, because that's the truth, man. And it's really rare that I've come across just the level. There's levels. So you have this level of awareness and it's just very evident to me. I know I also texted you one time because I really felt it, but I brought up how, you know, when we first kind of came across each other, like networking at events and stuff
Mm.
like that, there was just this very specific energy that you had that was so pure. And I really felt that you were just different. And now I understand why, because I've gotten to know you over time. But it's like there's just you have this pure curiosity, pure pureness to you where you care. You just care.
Mm.
And it just lives through you in any interaction. No. So like I just want to honor you and acknowledge you. And this is like my way of honoring you because I know like having this conversation.
It means so much. It mean no, yeah. Hearing that means so much because you don't the thing is like see this is the beautiful thing about you is like you'll actually vocalize this stuff because you don't know what place I was in like I've felt like kind of unseen, you know what I mean, in certain spaces. So to have someone be like, "Hey, this thing, this care about you, this thing," it's like I see it and keep doing it. Like that that's that means so much, because very often when you don't feel seen, you actually start to view these qualities about yourselves as things that you might want to trade off at some point, because you're just like, man, like what's really the why am I like this? And you know what I mean? Is it really like, is it useful? Is it helpful? And like I've always felt like you've seen uh these sacred qualities that I like to feel like I have, in the way of like I want to open my heart up in a way that sometimes like puts me in vulnerable positions and in danger for conversation, because it's like you aren't, it isn't always reciprocated, you know what I mean? But like to have someone, you know, see me in the way that you have in the past and recently, and really like vocalize that, has meant so much and has really helped me refine my commitment to the way I want to move through my heart. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
I love that. And that's how I feel about you too. Like you're this reflection just supporting me. And it just like you need those type of reflections because it helps validate you and give you confidence. You know, the confidence and validation should always come from yourself, but when you have that and other people can give that to you, that's what community is about, you know.
Mhm. 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 This is so fun.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to express before we finish this interview?
Think I just want to share that a word that has helped me to meditate on, the more that I let it, you know, spill into all areas of my life, including this conversation, you know what I mean, to have this conversation, is the word courage. um that's all I want to express, is like, you know, I encourage I encourage everyone to meditate on what the word courage means in wherever anyone is at right now. Um, and acknowledging that, you know, sometimes we carry fear in doing things is okay. It's only human. And we have such a unique ability, especially when we're partnered with God and the knowingness of that love is sustainable, to strengthen our ability to move in courage, and ultimately not just to overcome fear of ourselves and our own internal battles, but to come into that place of service. You know what I mean? Like even having this conversation is like there's through lines of courage, the courage to be vulnerable with each other, the courage for you to actually execute this idea. um and it's always
Yeah.
happening right under our nose, and we don't even clock it. We just think we're doing things, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, takes courage. And sometimes God's going to give you bigger assignments where that courage needs to increase along with the capacity. And I just that's all I want to express, is like staying in tune to that. Yeah.
That is a beautiful word. Thank you so much. It is so beautiful and relevant. I've also been thinking about courage. So, yeah.
Reflection.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your presence with us all. And I'm glad that people get to see you in this light and hear all of your deep and thoughtful expression.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I don't know how to end this, but
We'll just cut that. We'll just cut that.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace.